Hello everyone, welcome to Practical C++ Beginner Course. I'm Zach, and in this tutorial we will be going over the Hello World program. So if you open up Code Blocks, you're going to want to click on Create a New Project and then click on Console Application. On mine it's in the top right corner of the window. On yours it may be different, but you want to click on Console Application and then hit Go. Then on the next window you want to hit Next until you get here. Make sure you highlight C++, click Next again, and then give your project a name. In mine I'm just going to call it Tutorial 1, and then specify a folder to keep it in. Make sure it's a folder that you can find easily, and then click Next. Leave all the default settings on this window right here. These are simply directory and compiler settings. Just hit Finish, and then your project is created. So right now you don't see anything, but if you go over here to the left and click on Sources, you'll see the main.cpp file, which stands for main.c++. And if you double click it, you'll see the code. Now before we analyze this code, I want to go ahead and show you how to run it and what this code does. And to do that, on Windows you can either hit F9, or if you're on a Mac or Linux machine, you can just go up here and hit Build and Run. The code will compile, and then you'll see this console window. It prints the word Hello World, and then says process returned 0. Okay, so you can close out of this now that we know what the code does. We're going to look at how this code does what it does. So beginning with, kind of the main thing I want to show you in this tutorial, other than how to run your first program and compile it, is how to type out the skeleton of a C++ program. It's what I call the skeleton, and it's everything that you need for your code to run, at least in this course anyways, for every program that we will be writing together. So if we go ahead, I want to go ahead and take out this line, because this line is not actually needed for this program to compile and run. So if we take it out and we hit F9 and we build and run it again, we will get the process returned to 0. We just won't have Hello World printed to the console, which means, that's fine. The program just ran and executed till it finished with no errors, and it's a perfectly good program. So if we exit out of this, we're going to now analyze everything that we need, which is everything that you see right here. So starting from the top, you're going to see pound include IO stream. This line of code right here just simply tells the program that it needs to include a C++ library known as IO stream, which stands for input output stream. Now in every program that we write, you will need this line of code, which is why I include it in our skeleton. It's because if you don't have this line of code, your program will lose its basic input and output functionality. So you do need this line of code in every program that we write. Moving on, you're going to see using namespace standard. Now this line of code is not necessary for your program to run. Okay, so if we took this code out right now, it should still run fine. If we hit F9, everything goes fine, and we still get the same result, process returned to 0. However, I do want this line of code in here for reasons that I'll explain in the future. For now, just know that we do want to include it as part of our skeleton, because it will make your life easier when we start writing more code, and I will show you why in future tutorials. But for now, just know that you do need using namespace standard semicolon. Okay, and it does end with the semicolon. Now, I know right now you're saying, why does this line of code end with the semicolon and this one doesn't? Well, we'll get to that in future tutorials. Again, it's all going to become a habit. For now, just know this is the code that you will need in all of our C++ programs. Moving on to the next big chunk of code. This right here is known as your main function. And in every C++ program that we write, you will need a main function. And to type it up, you just simply write int, which stands for integer, and then main, open parentheses, close parentheses, and then your brackets with the return 0 statement. Now in programming, there's two different conventions for writing these brackets. I want to go ahead and show them to you now so you don't get confused later if I do this. One convention is the way you just saw it, which is like this, where your brackets are open and closed down here. But the other way you may see it is like this, where your brackets open at the top and closed down there, which is fine. There's no difference in the code whatsoever. It will run just the same. So just know that it's just a programming convention. There's no right or wrong ways. Some people have their own opinions on why they do it a certain way, but just know, it's all a matter of preference. So before we end this tutorial, I want you to go through and I want you to type this up with me so you can get in the habit of doing it. So what's the first thing we need to do? Well, we need to include the input-output stream C++ library so that we can, output stuff to the console window. To do that, we're going to hit pound include IO stream. Okay, no semicolon on this line. Again, you'll get in the habit of knowing where to put them and where not to put them. But for now, just know there's no semicolon at the end of this line. Now, though we don't need it for this program, you do want it as part of your skeleton for this class. I do want you to get in the habit of writing it in all of our programs. So let's go ahead and do it now. You want to use the standard namespace. And how do we do that? Remember, we typed using namespace standard. And that one did have a semicolon. Moving on. The other really critical piece of code that we need for our program to run is the main function. And remember, that was preceded with int, which stood for integer, the name of the function, main, open parentheses, close parentheses, and then our brackets, depending on what convention you decide to use, will be different. And then return the value 0. This right here is working code. If you take out some of this code, such as that, this code will return an error. It will not run. So for now, just know that everything in this code is needed, and in future tutorials we will go into a discussion as to why they are needed and what exactly they do. But for now, let's move on to the next tutorial where we will be discussing data types and variables. Thank you.